Hello, my name's Lisa. Welcome to my YouTube channel. It's 2022, so I decided I would do something I've not done before and open a YouTube channel and showcase what I make so that you can either buy them or you can make them yourself. So I run a small business which I started in the first lockdown. And it's slowly building, which is a good speed for me. So everything I make on the channel will be available in my shop, or you can just craft along at the same time or watch back and do some craft yourself. So at the moment I really like working with All and Create and Lavinia stamps, as well as other stamps that I've inherited or bought. But I thought I would just pop on to YouTube and let you know what my process is. Everything's handmade, so that it's a little bit different. But yeah, so I thought I would just start this and you can see what I do. So today I'm going to be using these stamps to create this card. Now this card is very apt at the moment. It's got Be My Valentine on it. I do like doing mixed media, so I like putting some layers onto my card and some effects. For instance, this has got some cotton on it underneath. Oh, that's fine. So it's got a little bit of cotton underneath, which is glued and it shows movement, which I really like. We've got some stencil in the background and another stamp, and we've got a 3D bee, so which is quite glittery. So if I move it around, you'll be able to see how it glitters. So and I'll show you how to do that. So it's all 3D, and I like doing this sort of thing. I also like doing sort of like things that are unusual, and making for people who have got ideas but just can't realise them or find them in the shops. My mum's often saying, oh, can you do some masculine cards? I can't find what I want in the shops. So this is more of a Be My Valentine for a masculine card. So this is a square card. I can't remember the measurements. I should have got the measurements, but I will post them below as well. It's a card blank, and on the back I normally put my shop, so the Jollypad Boutique, which you can find on etsy.com, UK shop Jollypad Boutique, or just search Jollypad Boutique and then you will be able to find it. So what I did was I created a background. Now the background I created had this with this stencil, which has got lots of squares on it, very tiny ones and bigger ones and medium sized ones, and then I just did all my layers and my effects on the top. So I started with a background a bit similar to this. Now this one was created by doing, I use a brayer and a gel plate or gel press. So if you don't know, this is what the brayer looks like. So I use that and a gel press. I've got one here that I use. It's a small one. I keep it in its package because it will indent if anything's on top of it, even a piece of paper lays on top of it. If I can get it open. So it comes all sort of like really jelly and squishy. It's very satisfying. So at the moment it's got a few marks on it, a few ridges, but I use this side mainly. This has got a bit of a dip in it. It's where I had it in my box, and that will not come out, can you see? So I don't use this for very, very much. I've got one here, which is, if I find it, which I got a very, very large one. So I bought this gel plate a few years ago. Oh, sorry, I knocked the camera. So, and it's sandwiched between two pieces of acetate here just to keep it nice. And actually I like it clean, but it does work better when it's a bit grungy, a bit dirty. When I put it away, I tend to use my brayer like that to just move everything down. I cut shapes out as well, and sometimes I might want to use a round or a circular. So I've just cut this out of card and I put that on the gel plate, and then I can do all my printing through that. And that's what I got. I've got an example of a card that I did using this circle on the gel press, on the big gel press, and I just stamped through onto the gel press and then lifted this print, stamped some on top. But I will show you how to do something like this. So it's in a plastic packaging. This is actually for a customer. So if I just move all of that to one side, I will let you know how I did this card. So let's just move all of that over, just making sure that my gel plate hasn't got anything on top of it, or pressing down on it. Okay, put my small gel press into here. So people call them gel press or jelly plate. So yes, so that's how this happened across here, is that I was mopping up onto a piece of card. So I used my gel press for some ink for something, and did this so that the ink was still on here, and then this was part of a mop up on a piece of A4 card which I cut. I also used then a stencil, so the square stencil that I used here. So I put that down and I mopped up over that, so I just did the brayer over the top like that, and that produced this mop up card. So let's see which way around I want to do that. I probably quite like it that way. Yeah, I quite like it that way actually, so I will probably do it this way. So this will look different on this card. Okay, so this card actually, so instead of popping it down on the bottom, is let me see, so 15 centimeters by 15 centimeters, and I've got an inches one here, so that is 5.9 inches square, and the piece of card that I've cut for the top is 13.5 inches square. About 13? Oh, nearly 14, but I would probably do about 13. Okay, so if you wanted an edge all the way around that's equal, so you notice that this is a little bit deeper than these edges here, so I could put my sentiment on the bottom. Oh, excuse me, I just take a drink of water. Oh, my throat's being funny today. Okay, so that's the sizes that I've done. Now you will notice as well, if I get some plain paper, that I've done a line all the way around the outside, and the way I did that was I got a Sharpie, so just an ordinary Sharpie, which is sort of like that tip, and I just round the edge with a piece of paper underneath like this all the way round. And I tend to do this first because I have spent hours and hours stamping and then had the issue where I've done this last and the pen has slipped onto my work. So if I just take this little scrap piece of card here and show you how easy it is. Just like that, remove it, and there's your line down the side. So I would always advise you to do that first. So I'll use a lot of scrap copier paper as well, and I'll just pop that to one side so that I can use that later. Okay, so let's get started. So what I used for this is I used this All and Create by Tracy Evans, and it's number 330, and it is called Honeybee. Yeah, so there we go, much better. Honeybee. So, and it's got a beautiful bee on it. It's got this hive that I did in the background here and then painted, and this as my other part of my background here, which I did in second generation ink, and I'll explain that to you. This is beautiful as well. I haven't used it for this project, but I will use that at some point. I love this one as well, so as you can see, if you wanted to do a smaller card, this is the same bee but smaller, and that's on this smaller stamp, which is number 436, Little Critters. It's also by Tracy Evans, and I just love the dragonfly there. And you've got the word critters here, and there's a word under there which I have got here, little. Okay, so Little Critters, that's how it comes, and they come sandwiched between some acetate. Now I normally put my name on it because I put it down, and as you can see it just disappears. So I make sure my name's on it so I can find it again. It's very handy as well if you have a box to one side. So I have a box here which I tend to put everything in that I'm using, and I've got my cloths here. So it's just an old t-shirt with giraffes on. Giraffes cheer me up, that I didn't want to throw out because it's lint free, so I don't have any lint on anything, and I use that to clear up sometimes as well. You also need a water spray bottle. Now lots of people have got small spritz bottles. Mine stopped spraying for some reason. It was very, very old, so I asked my husband to get me a spray bottle, and he bought a giant one, but it works just as well. So I'm going to add some more stenciling to this because this has got quite a mottled background, if you can see here, and this has got a lot of white space, so I want to do some stenciling, and I'm going to use for that this stencil here, which is number 112. It's called Heaps of Hexagons. Anyway, it's by Autour de Moi, which is Abs at All and Create, and it comes, and I quite like to leave it in its package after it's dry, obviously, and it's all different hexagonals, and I used the square one to do this and to do the other card. Now the square one also has lots of little squares like that, but because I braided over the top, it didn't get into all of the tiny little squares like a brush would, so that's why they are missing from this background. So let's just put that to one side. So what I'm going to do, I've got here, I can't remember what colours I used, but one of them is one of my favourites, which is the peeled paint. So I quite like the vintage look. So what I'm going to do is add some more peel paint and some frayed burlap. Now we've got a lot around this edge, so I might do around this edge here, and I'd quite like this stamp, if I can find it, my bee stamp here. So this one here, I'd quite like that to go on that side with the bees there, so I'll probably do it like that. Okay, so I don't tend to tape my stencils down unless I really have to, and I'm going to use a brush. Now I've got these stencil brushes, this from Lavinia's Stamps, and I've used that, so that's my green brush. And I don't have a brown one, I have grey and blue at the moment, so I'm going to use a fresh one, which I got for Christmas from my darling daughter, one of my daughters, so I'm going to use this one for the brown. So what I tend to do is I have different colours for different brushes, and to clean them I just wipe onto some kitchen roll until it comes clear and there's no more ink coming off, because this is obviously stained the brush, which is very handy because then I can tell what I've used. So it's my grey one, my blues, my pinks and reds, my greens. So now I'm going to use this one for my browns. So let's pop those back, get a piece of kitchen roll, the last one on the tube, and I also need a baby wipe, so I've got some baby wipes that are good for the planet. So let's have a look. Pop that on there like that, move that out of the way and just take off my lid. Make sure that I've loaded the brush up. Now because I want this in the background, I'm going to do it so it's nice and light, so I'm going to take some off. Now notice that these brushes sometimes have a little bit of hair loss right at the very beginning, so a couple will come out and I've not had any problems since then. So I had like a little one there, but this is brand new, so don't be worried if you get one and the hair comes out, just a couple, but all the time after that it's been fine. So I'm going to hold my brush quite loosely, start in this corner because I would like the corners to be darker, and then I'm going to fan out and round. Now the reason I'm not doing the middle bit is that I want some of my frayed burlap in the middle. Okay, and you can just check, keep one hand here, you can just check and have a look. So it's very detailed, so make sure that you've got the effect that you want. Now I don't want to go too mad because I don't want to cover up these, I just want to add some layers. So I'm going to cover that up. I'm going to just wipe up this little bit here with a wet wipe, and then I'm going to come in with my frayed burlap. So I've used first of all peeled paint, and now I'm going to use frayed burlap. So I'm using Distress ink today, it's a water-based ink. Normally, well not normally, but sometimes I also use the Distress Oxide, and that is a fusion, so it's pigment as well. So what that does is it layers on top. And this one, take my hand off, generally you can mix them. Just be a bit more careful because you don't want to make mud. So I'm going to come up the side here and into this corner because I don't mind the corners being darker, and then as I work into it, just make sure that I overlap it a little bit. Now this this ink is also water-based. I'm going to put a little bit over here as well, just to fill in. Now I like some white space, so I'm going to keep some white space as well over in this corner to lighten it up. So there we go. So what I'm going to do as well is make sure that this is covered up, put the lid on, And what you can do is you can get another piece of card, which I will get here, if I can find one. It's a bit of a rookie error not having a piece of card on me. So I just got a piece of A4 card, because what I'd quite like to do is a mop up. Now this, so I don't waste any ink, I'm going to spritz some water just off to the side, and we'll see if we can get a print. We might not be able to. Put that on the top and a piece of kitchen roll, so we might not be able to get much, but that's fine because it will make a really nice background anyway, and it will clean the stencil at the same time, so we don't have anything to worry about wastage wise. Okay, so let's lift that off. So there we go, you might be able to see that. So that will make a nice background which I can build on after I've trimmed it. So I'll just pop it over there to dry, and then the rest of my stencil can wipe with a wet wipe. Now this stencil is very, very quick and easy to clean because you just wipe over it, but sometimes you get stencils which are quite intricate and have sticky up bits which you don't want to catch. Make sure this is clean. You'll be surprised how much actually is still there that comes off. So it's all nice and dry, so I'm just going to lay that on top there to make sure that's still a tiny bit wet, so make sure that that's clean. So now we have a background. So our squares was our first layer with the braided off edge, and now we've got our background here. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stamp this stamp here. Now I love the numbers. We've got fly, bee and pollen. So this is a favourite stamp of mine, so I'm going to use that. Now a lot of people use solid blocks like this to do their stamping. And I do use those as well, but with the bigger ones, I mean I've got bigger stamps than this, I tend to use this. Now I've got some, well I will have some flexible blocks on order from All and Create. You can also get them from Lavinia Stamps that flex a lot better than that. I don't know, I inherited some Craft Stash, 2 of these came with it. They've got little feet, I don't even know what they're for. But I use them for this because they're a lot larger. So I'm going to put it on my block. Okay, and I'm going to stamp up in the frayed burlap. So let's move my card because I don't want to get anything on that. Oops, and I'm going to just tap, sort of like a medium pressure. Sometimes my dogs bark because they think someone's knocking on the door when I do this. I do it nice and quietly today. There we go. And make sure you've got a good coverage. Now what's best to use with the frayed burlap is just to squirt it with a little bit of water, just a tiny bit, so you can see I've got a little mist covering that, just to make the ink a little bit more fluid. So we'll put that off to this side because I want my bee and house on that side. So sometimes I put a wodge of paper, like copy paper, underneath to do my stamping, which I do mainly do for the stamps that I'm doing in black, my main focal image, or if I've got a silhouette stamp. So I'm pressing down, but I'm keeping my hand at least contact part of the time. So I've always got a hand on there, even though I'm moving this one around. So I'm moving my right hand around, press down, move my left hand around. Now the good thing about these blocks, or when I get my flexible blocks, you can put your hand on it like that and you can flex it so that you can get the middle part of the stamp. So this one works well, seeing as I don't know what it's for, but there are other blocks out there which I'm going to get, so lift that up, and as you can see we've got a lovely background print. Now I'm not worried that some of it hasn't come out. We've got a couple of layers of ink. We've got this original layer, we've got the hexagonals, so the card is getting loaded with a lot. There wasn't as much ink on this side, so when this dries, this at the moment is the water, sorry I knocked the camera, it's very watered down. You can see the numbers and the hexagons here, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yes, 6 sides there, hexagons. So we've got the matching these hexagons here. Right, so just let that dry for a little while I clean my stamp. Now I like my stamps mostly clean. I say mostly, I don't tend to clean them if they have black ink. So when I get them new, I tend to load them up with black ink. That you can see here, all loaded up with black ink. Let it dry, load it up again, do an impression, so use them on a scrap card, load it up again, use it again, and then they're good to go. But if I do any other colour than black, I do clean them, and this black will actually clean off if you wanted to, even at a later date. So let's take this off, and would help if I put it on the right side like that. Okay, so now we're going to use this stamp here. Now this stamp, as you can see in my original card, if I get my chair and actually sit down, in my original card here I've done this in grey. So for that I used Versifying Clair Morning Mist. I don't know if you can see that. So Versifying Clair is a pigment ink, which means it's not water based, it's oil, I believe, based, so that means that we can use it with water and it will not bleed and it will not rub and it will not fade. So we can print or stamp with this, and you can watercolour it afterwards and it will be fine. It brings out fine details and perfect for using watercolours to colour stamped images. So it's made with pigment. So it comes like that, like on a felt pad. Move my card so I don't get anything on it, and we will stamp up. So as always, I always bring my pad to my stamp and not the other way around, even with the smaller ones. It depends really how quick I want. Now with the grey, you'll be able to see it's shiny because it's on there, but you won't be able to see much of the colour as it is a really, really pale grey. Now I don't know if you can see, I've just got a little bit there, so I'll wipe that off because I don't want any marks on my card. I've already worked quite hard on it. Okay, so let's move that ink, and I would just like to place this off to one side because in my card I had my bee like it was coming out or going in to the hive. Now what I find useful with these feet is that I can actually, because this is a thin block, I can actually hold on to the feet, a bit more of a stability, make sure it's straight, and I can pop it down, okay, like so. and that is the perfect place for it. Okay, so let's move it up and flex it. Now this one is like the third layer of ink that we're putting on the paper. This is on the card, sorry, this is multivarious card, so it will hold quite a bit of water. And lift, and as you can see, this is the difference. So you can see here that it's very, very clear. But stamping with the distress ink, you don't get as crisp an image, so it's really nice and perfect for the backgrounds. Now with this ink here, it's VersaFine, so it's because it's a pigment ink, it's slower drying. So what we're going to do, move that out of the way, is we're going to blot it, so we don't want any smudges and we don't want things getting onto our fingers. Okay, let's move that to one side, and there we go. So what I'm going to do now is, like I did on this card here, is to colour it. Now what I did to colour it is I used both of these inks just to keep the tones the same, and a water pen. Now these water pens are great. You just unscrew the top like that, pop the water in or spray it in, and then you can close it. Now I did order some other pens, and I got some for Christmas which look the same sort of pen, but when I tried to open it I couldn't open it, and I realised that actually it goes the opposite way, so I would have to turn it the opposite way. So this one, to undo it, I need to turn it clockwise and screw it up anti-clockwise, and with this one, see, I can't, I have to unscrew it anti-clockwise and screw it up clockwise. So you might get your water pens and think, oh, I can't undo it, but just try it the other way. Now with this water pen, I don't know if you can see, it just comes out really quite delicately. To get a little bit more, you just need to squeeze the pen a little bit. So I used my frayed burlap and my peeled paint. So I'm going to do my peeled paint first and squish some down on the mat, and then take my spray bottle and just spray a little bit of water just to do the first layer, and as you can see it makes a nice green. And I painted the roof, just add a bit more ink, that's better. And like I said, I just wanted it to be in the background. Now I'm not sure that this is actually the multivarious card that I thought it was, because the paint's really soaking into the card really quickly. Now the best thing to do is to use some watercolour card. Now watercolour card comes with different finishes, so your traditional watercolour card tends to have a grain on it, so that's very difficult to stamp on because the grain will not show up all the details. But I use a card which actually, if I just grab, comes in pads, and it's Bristol Smooth, so it's a watercolour card, but it's very smooth. It's extra heavyweight bright white paper, so I tend to use this. Very resistant and extra smooth surface. Oh yeah, it's in English there. So right, so to clean my brush, let's get this scrap piece of paper again. You just go backwards and forwards until it goes clear. There's a lot of ink on there. Let's do that over there. There. Right, so I already had some peeled paint. Now I'm going to use my frayed burlap, put it underneath, and spray just a little bit of water and pick it up just to do this background. Put a little bit more colour. I'm not being very careful. You might want to do it more carefully. Now, I've never really done watercolouring before. I have never had any lessons. I don't know really. I haven't even watched any YouTube videos on it. Don't ask me why, I don't know. Just haven't. A little bit more. Let's pick up that bit. So as you can see, it doesn't smudge the ink. You can just pop it in there. Let's get another bit of spray. There we go. Now obviously it's not going to show up as much on the green on the background, but that's fine because this also is a background for our main focal image. Okay, now you can see that this paper is not watercolour paper, which is what I thought. I did the background a long time ago, because as you can see, or might be able to see, it is sort of like taking on the paper and bowing a little bit or lifting out. You can probably see better on that side. It's lifting out of the bottom. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some more frayed burlap down and come in with a stronger colour. Now where you can see on the image, you can see the lines and the shading. All I'm going to do is follow those where I think, well, where the artist, the designer, which is Tracy Evans, has done a little bit of shading on the stamp. I'm just going to follow those with the lines and build on top. Okay, down like that. Maybe do a little bit under there, tiny bit under there, just so that you can see. Okay. So there's a little bit of ink here, which I've got fan brush in water. Might not actually pick up much colour, which it probably won't. Let's just put a little bit more on. And might just flick. And if it doesn't show much, then I've not wasted anything. It'll just be part of the background. Whoops. And dry that off. Okay, so at the moment we've got our little focal image. Now I'm just going to do that to my card, make sure that it's okay. Right, so what I then did was, for the leaves, as you can see, they're quite a lot brighter. So what I used there, I've got some Derwent Inktense pencils. I bought 12. They were in the sale. They're can be quite expensive. So they come in a pack of 12. So I think I'll probably add to it, but at the moment I'm happy with my 12 colours. And I used this one, which is apple green. Just stand up, check that you can see that apple green. Okay, T, is that T400 or 1400? Anyway, if you've got any green or watercolour pencils or felt pens or anything like that, and I just coloured in the leaves and on this part. Even if they're going to be covered up, I just like the fact that it's done. And they're elements that you see without actually really processing them in your head, but I think that if they're not there, I would not be very happy. So, using my watercolour, because these are water reactive, and the ink tense pencils can get very bright, a lot brighter. Just put a little dab of water just to activate them. Now if these leaves were bigger, I would put a darker green, clean my brush, darker green in the middle with a lighter green around the edge and blend. That would be lovely, and layer them up. So as you can see, it's looking very similar to this. Now here on these bee wings, you can see, you just check that you can see that they're glittery, and for that I just used a Jelly Roll pen. It's just a one with glitter in, so it's clear gel with just glitter in. So then I just colour in the wings on the 3 bees like that, just this little added accent, so all the bees have got a nice sparkle to them. Okay, so now I'm going to just pop this to one side just for a second while I get my bee, so which is this bee here. You can use the smaller one if you're doing a smaller card, like I said, from the little critters, so you can use this bee as well, but I quite liked the big bee. So I'm going to find my block again, if I can find it. Where did I put it? It's acrylic, so I never find it. Oh, it's there, still with this one. So let's take that off and pop it down on here, and then I can put my bee in the middle like that. And this time I'm going to ink up in Versifying Clair Nocturne. It's got a number 2 on it. I've got 3 that I use. I alternate. One I keep quite dry for if I want a lighter print, and I've also got some Versifying Clair re-inker that I can use on my pads, and I've bought 2 bottles, but I've had one for about a year and I've not finished it yet, so that's going to last me quite a long time. So I'm going to ink up, making sure that I cover everything. What I tend to do with the Nocturne inks, because I use it a lot more, is I keep them upside down like that while I'm using them, but I store them the right way up and I'm not. So I'll just get my pile of copy paper, just so I've got a more forgiving base, and then I'm going to stamp him around about here. So I want his wing over the beehive, and now I've got several layers. Now you would let this dry completely before stamping on it, because it doesn't really like to stamp on a wet or damp surface. So pushing down, keeping one hand on the stamp, and then I can lift up that bit, and I can lift up that bit. I can also lift up there and there. Like I said, not as flexible as the ones that I'm ordered, but it will do at the moment. Okay, now don't lift your stamps too quickly. Let it really soak in. I'd rather that it stamped beautifully the first time. Now, there we go. So I'm not too concerned if it doesn't do a perfect print, because my bee will go on the top of it there. So what I did with this one was I fussy cut the bee out on the top, as you can see, and I cut round the legs, but the antennae were from the original stamp. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to fussy cut all around the edge of the bee, but not including the legs. I don't want to spend a long time on the video cutting out legs. So I've got an offcut of card here, as you can see. It's just a bit from the bottom of something that I trimmed. Pop that to one side, and that across. Take my ink pad and ink up again. Now I'm going to ink this up twice. One so I can put it on top, and the wings will then not, because this one here, as you can see, that I've stamped, the background shows through. Okay, and the background on the bee, so green across here and across his face. So what I want is a crisper image, but I've popped him on there because there's elements that I don't want to cut out. So I've popped him on the card as well. So position him on the scrap card, pop him down. Now I should have blotted the bee from this, the last one that I did. So I shall blot that down while I'm holding this. It should dry while I'm doing these two bits, these two elements. So there we are. So can you see that that has really stamped beautifully on there? So, and I need another one just to cut the wings out, so I'm not that fussed about getting the rest of the bee. I'm just doing the wings, because I want the wings to be cut out and popped down there. Okay, there we go. Flex that bit. Right, because I'm going to fussy cut these, I am going to blot them. There we go. So I'm not that fussed about this bit here, because I don't need that bit. So let's turn it over and blot it on the other side. And as you can see, I don't know if you can see actually, there's a slight greying there, and if that comes out on your fingers you will get it all over your card. Right, so because I'm fussy cutting these, I don't want to be dragging around this whole piece of card, so I'm just going to do that. Put that card to one side. Now these scissors I inherited as well. I didn't think they were very useful at first because they're curved, but actually they are very useful. So I'm going to take this bee first, and because I've stamped him out on the card, I don't need to worry about fussy cutting his legs out. I do need his wings though. So let's cut round. I love doing fussy cutting. I've got a lot of things that I just stamped and fussy cut and put in a box just so I can use them. So like I say, I don't want to fussy cut around his legs. With my last one I did, but with this one I can't be bothered. Well, not just that, for the video I need to really keep it down to time. I was going to print them or stamp them, and let's take that a little bit off. I was going to stamp them and fussy cut them, because lots of people say, oh, people don't like to watch cutting out, but actually everybody that I've spoken to said they find it quite therapeutic to cut or to watch somebody paint and cutting things out. And as you can see, I've got a little finger mark there from my thumb, so I don't want that transferred anywhere else, so I'm just going to give it a wipe. That's better. So even though I've blotted it, you still have to be a little bit careful. Oh, I wasn't going to cut the legs out, was I? Okay. So when we have long nails, comes in handy. Let's just chuck that over there. There we go. So when I place him on, even though he doesn't look like he's got legs, magically he's got legs now. Okay, so now with this one, I just need his wings, and I'm going to cut across his body as well, so that I haven't got anything too fiddly to try and glue on. And it also means that the body will hold the wings beautifully up, because I'll glue the body and then put some 3D glue gel. So it's quite nice because you can just follow the lines like that. And there we have the wing almost cut out. That's useful when you do a point, just to go back in rather than round and round. And I moved my card rather than my scissors when cutting out, because I don't want to be doing all of that, because that hurts. So I just tend to move my card when I'm cutting out. There's a bit of white edge in there, so I'll cut that off. There we go. So now we've got those three like that. So what you could do is you could use the little critters one, this bee here. So we could have one here, and you could think, oh, I want a little one here. Let's have a look what that will look like with my acetate. Yep, I might want to do that. At this moment I don't, I just want my one bee, but obviously if you wanted more you could use that one to add a little bit of depth, so it looks like a bee in the background. So I don't need to do much to this, so I shall just pop that to one side, put my bee back on my stamp set. Okay, so what I did to this one, as you can see, is I've got the wing here, but the wing underneath I actually painted so that it just was a little bit interesting, and I watercoloured my bee as well. So the way I did that is with watercolour. Now I just got this from Hobbycraft, $6.99 or something like that. Like I said, I'm not a watercolourist, I'm not a painter, not really, I just do what I like. Oh, take that bit of sellotape off, put on that bit of card. So I tend to just buy something a little bit cheaper, and if I think, yep, this is something I want to do and invest in, then I might do that. Have my watercoloured pen, and I'll just use this here just to clean my paintbrush. Just checking you can all see me. So all I did for this was I just went in with the white. Now I know that you think, oh, it's white, so it's a bit funny doing the background of the wings in white, but I found that it actually had a nice effect. And because this is a watercolour pen or water pen, I don't need to have a pot of water to try and clean my brush. So yeah, each card does take quite a long time, and you don't really sort of like make much money if you're selling cards because of the time that you put in. It's obviously got a ceiling price, but I just love doing it. So then I'm going to come in with the grey, a little bit of the grey, just a tiny bit. Dab some off. Oh, I didn't need to dab some off, I don't think. There we go. So it just shows a little bit of darkness at the bottom. Now I know it's there and you know it's there, and you'll probably appreciate it, whether your recipient will see it or not. But there we go, just plain water, just to blend it in at the end. Okay, so hopefully you can see, oh sorry, on the camera again, hopefully you can see that it's slightly shaded. Right, and for the bee itself I used several colours, so just to build it up. So I've got my yellow, so notice that I washed my brush on here so I haven't contaminated my yellow. It's a nice bright yellow, so I'm just going to put it in like this, just on the white bits really. Okay, and the same with this one, because this one will actually go on the top. I didn't need to paint these two bits here, but quite like it. So clean my brush off till it goes clear, and come in with a, oh no I didn't do that, came in with a sort of light pale orange, and then I just did that in the middle, just test it on there first. Okay, so in the middle, clean it off, and then I came in with a much brighter orange, or darker orange I should say, make sure it's got a fine point, and then did the tone at the side like that, so it sort of like went from dark to light. See how much paint's coming off. There we go. Then just with water, just to make it a bit lighter, squeeze some on there like that. Don't know if you can see that. I'll just squeeze some water out like that with my brush, just so that I can add a little bit more water to blend it. You see how it blends a little bit more. Okay, make sure that's dried. Make sure my brush is clean. Pop the lid on. Okay, and what I did as well was I did the jelly roll on the leaves, the wings. Let me just close that paint. So hold the body in the middle. But what I did was I'm not going over the whole thing. I'm colouring each segment because I only want the wings to be shiny probably wouldn't matter if you just coloured the whole thing. I'm a little bit fussy, so I just want the segments to be shiny and not anything else. There we go. It already brings it to life. Doesn't look very glittery there. It's hard to tell till I lift it up. There we go. So each of the segments are just clear jelly roll. And you can make any additions that you want to this. You could paint it sort of like a pale blue. Could add other colours in if you wanted to. You could actually put glitter on the wings rather than the jelly roll. I didn't really want to sort of like detract from everything else that was on the card as well, so hopefully you'll be able to see the sparkle there. So they're very beautiful, and that will obviously match the sparkle on the leaves. Leaves, I keep calling them leaves, on these wings of the other bees. Okay, so he's going to go on like this, and then this will go on the top. Okay, but I will leave that till last. So to have the extra element of the thread, I've just got some thread here that I just got online, and I also used, so you can see, I also used some washi tape here, just to sort of like bring in an extra layer and make it sort of like attached to the rest of the card, so it just didn't look like this was just plonked in the middle. So for that I used this washi tape. It's got sort of metal trouser button on it, and I chose it because it matches the colours. You've also got this one here. This is these are all in Create, so you could even have one with a sentiment that says courage on it. So you could use this as well. Let's have a quick look. So depending on what you wanted to do, and they also do a lovely one here. I love this one, which has got lots of numbers on, but I haven't got blue in my card, so I don't want to bring in an extra element. What else have I got here? And I've got this one here as well, which has got all the Franks stamps on it, so you could use that one as well. But I quite like this one because it's got the brown in it. So this here needs grounding at the moment, it's floating. So I'm going to tear off a little bit here. And some people don't like straight lines, so they might peel off this edge here, but I don't mind them, they help. Pop that on my corner of my shelf. And I'm going to just pop that, oops, turn my card. Don't be afraid to turn your card all different ways to be able to get the effects that you want. Okay, so I either use my nails like this, or use my scissors like the handle. It sticks really well, but you can peel it off. Be careful when you peel it off. Some card I have taken the top of my card off. So that's grounded here, but I would quite like to bring in some more of this. So this is quite easy to peel like that, or to rip, but I do find sometimes it doesn't do it, so I just start off a little bit with a pair of scissors and then go from there. So on my original card I had some going across here, okay, like that. Now if you're doing this so you can put it onto a card blank, you could tuck it round, but because I've done my black line I didn't want to break that up. and I think a little bit here. Now I love these numbers, and I've, on my original one, I stamped that a little bit higher, but I've stamped it a little bit lower, but I could like a little bit going across there. So this might be when, yeah, I'll need my scissors. So I just start it off. That's a tiny bit, and I quite like that. Put that onto the numbers there. I'd hope if it was a little bit straighter, but I think it's gone down a bit. So let's cut a little bit more, and I can always attach it to the end. Don't really want to waste any of it, even a tiny bit. So can always just attach it here and bring it across like that. Okay, so now I've got some thread that I'm going to pull off like this. Now yesterday when I made my other card, I tried to yank that and break it with my hands, but it hurts, so I'm not going to do that. Muss it up a little bit, pull it out, put that bit in. Oh, he doesn't want to go in like my other card. It just popped out. I don't know why, I just, you know, sometimes I like it sticking out, sometimes I don't. Okay, so just place it on there, and it sort of like matches this that goes around here. And I've got some craft tacky glue, it's very old, and I'm just going to pop down a couple of, I'm going to make sure I've only got it, I only put it on where the bee is, because then my bee, let's turn him round so I can hold him, is going to be glued down. Now I'm going to do the wings as well, because I want this first layer to be flat. Oops, sorry, not the camera as well, make you all dizzy. Okay, and then we pop it down, make sure we line it up. Okay, like so. Right, well this has got the cotton underneath it, so I'm going to make sure I turn it over and really give it a good press, like so. You can feel the bee under there. I'm going to make sure it's got a really nice press. I've done that on the kitchen roll so it doesn't seep out onto my craft mat or craft sheet. There he is. Okay. Now before I glue these wings on, make sure I got that on there. What I'm going to do is to do some blending around the edge. So as you can see the difference, you might want to leave it nice and clean like this. I quite like it blending so it really pulls your eye into the card, so you can see it beautifully. So to do that I used, what did I use yesterday? Right, so I've got a smoothie. Now I've used makeup sponges in the past which work really well. I find they disintegrate quicker than these. Okay, yeah, they lasted good couple of years, but these smoothies you can just wash them under cold water or put them in a little bag and put them in the washing machine and air dry, but I've got lots of colours on these, so let's just pop that to one side. and I went around in frayed burlap. So I'm going to ink up my smoothie, making sure I've got plenty of ink, but what I don't want to do is obliterate everything on my card. So I'm going to take some off on my craft mat like that, and I can use this as well. I'm going to start in my bottom corner because I want it to dark in this corner mainly, and hold it tight onto my craft mat, tilt. So I start like that and then I tilt my smoothie, just catching the edge and blending round. Keep blending, and don't be afraid that it's quite dark, because that's what I wanted. Now the nice thing is as well is that it doesn't take onto the washi tape, and then I work outwards. So the washi tape has that real pop at the end there. This does take a little bit of practice, and I still sometimes just do get circles on it or anything like that, but it's nice that it just quite forgiving, it blends out. When you go up the sides, just make sure that you tip it or tilt the smoothie so you just literally kiss the side of the card, and then bring it in more in the corners. Sorry about that tapping noise, I think it's cable or something that taps as the table moves. And then that one, I don't want this corner as dark, but it does need to be darker. Moving it around, down the side, like so, to meet that corner. Let's have a look. I think I want a little bit more coming in here. I do want to keep some of this white space, I really like that. Okay, now notice how I'm moving the card. I should really put my fingers here because this does get a bit messy, so I should really use some kitchen roll. A bit of wipe. Okay. Right. Right, darken that corner a little bit more. There we go. And pop that back in its pot. What I'm going to do at this stage, so as you can see, when I did it last time, we do have a few speckles. But what I quite like is this effect here as well, where it looks like it's bleached out the colour. So, oh, I'm not sure why I took that off. So whatever ink is left on here, might not be a lot. I'm just going to get my fan brush and do this. Let's move that. Okay, put that on there. So then I can do from corner to corner along the diagonal, and then that will start. As you can see here already, it started to bleach out. Now I normally tap it off so I get little bleach marks, but you can do tap it off and do some big bleach marks if you wanted to. Right, okay, so what do we do next? Next we have, I want to do my Posca Splats. So I've got a Posca pen here, which has got a ball in it, so you can just shake it. Let's just pop this here like that. Okay, mainly because I want to excuse me. Ooh. Right, let's see if tapping it will work. So as you may or may not be able to see, oops, sorry, some splats going down. Onto the paper, onto the card. So as you will be able to see, we've got some white splats. If you wanted this, more of this effect here, where it sort of trails, what you'll need to do is do more of a flicking motion like that, and that will get that sort of effect across your card rather than the tiny splats. Okay, so let's put that to one side, and that also needs to dry. So while it's drying, there we go, let's wipe these splats up. Oh, they're all over the place. Always covered with white Posca Splats everywhere. Right, so what we're going to do while that is drying is that we've got our Be My Valentine here. So what I did with that, let's just get this scrap piece of card here. What I did with that was I have these verses. I can't remember where I got it from, and it's got Be My Valentine at the bottom there. So let's see if I can show you. So Be My Valentine, and it's got lots of different sentiments. But because it's a bee, I wanted to take this bee bit off. So what I'm going to do is, I've got a normal acrylic block. Okay, I have a piece of tape from yesterday, which has probably got a little bit of ink still on it. So yes, I just dabbed that off, and the tape does keep, and that's been all night, so it doesn't dry on this. This that I'm using is the Scotch removable tape, and I can remove it from my card if I want to use it to mask off any areas. And I'm going to mask off this bit here, which just says B, like so, because I don't want any shadow of that at all on my work. And then I'm going to ink up the My Valentine, and then take this one off. I'm going to pop that in the bin now. I've used it a couple of times. Make sure it's not on here, so you can possibly see. Let's check that it's not on the B bit, but it is on the My Valentine. So let's get my head over that to make sure it's straight. Let's just pop it in the middle anyway. Give it a little wiggle, don't press too hard on sentiments because they will splay. And as you can see, I did get a little bit here, but hopefully I'll cut that off. And the eye on this, I will just dot again in my fine liner. So let's get my fine liner. Just do the dot, and then that will be cut off. Must have got a little bit on my block. Okay. Now, because I want to be My Valentine, let's take this off. We've got on, pop that on there. We've got on here you see the word be. So even though it's on this bit, I can just use that tiny bit there. Oops. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop it on here, and I'm just going to, let's just move that out of the way, ink up the B bit. As choose a little bit of a bigger piece of card. That bit's cleaner. Pop that on there, like that. Give it a press. And then lift it off. As you can see, it's not stamped anything else except this sentiment here. What I do need to do is I need to blot it, just in case. And the same with this one, don't want any more black marks over it. Okay. So, I get my card blank here and pop that where it's going to go. So, it's going to go there. Actually, this one is unlike this one. I must have miscalculated, because this has got a very big gap, but I've made sure that this is the same all the way around, whereas this one I think is a bit bigger, so my sentiment will go actually on the card itself. Let's put that back so I don't ruin it. Okay, so be my Valentine. Let's give it a trim, get that black bit off there. Here we go. Straight as I can. You can obviously do this on a trimmer or a guillotine if you want to. And do it straight. So I've got this. And then this one straight under for the B. Let's just trim that so I can keep that bit of card for something else. And even this bit of card can be for something else. Even if you've got a small sentiment. I mean, I've got scraps of card everywhere, it's a nightmare. So, don't need the S, and I quite like the fact that the S seems to sort of like be dropping off anyway. So let's just cut that off. It's just like Tracy did it on purpose. And trim the B. And just before that black line there. Now I'm not fussed that it's different. Oh, keep pulling that. I'm really not fussed that this is a different font. You may want something, you can print something out, or you may have something a bit more likeable to you. It's completely up to you. Let's get my thing here. So, because I want it to stand out, I'm going to put my Sharpie line around it, which I do on my sentiments sometimes, or I edge them with ink, or I pop them matte and layer them on something. I just want this to be pretty simple. And down like that. And I can do the same with this, even though it's tiny. And notice that I'm not trying to move my pen around. I don't want to slip. So move this around. And I just slipped on that corner there. Or I said I didn't want to. So let's just make it look like I did it on purpose. As you can see, fill in the corners a little bit. And if I wasn't doing a video, I'd probably do that one again because it doesn't take long. However, I won't bother today. So there we go. Move that. So I think I want it to follow this. Or do I want it to be more over here? This is where we faff around a little bit. So what I'm going to do after the video, I think, is do this again. And now it's on the card, I don't like it. but I won't show you because you've obviously seen that, but I will place that probably like that. Or actually, what about here in this corner? Not sure. Don't really want it to hide that. I'll have a bit of a play. It's probably going to go there. Actually, I quite like it down there. Let's put that down. And I'm wondering if I can do B by Valentine. I might do that actually. B by Valentine. I can put that in my recycle box. Yeah, so I'm going to add it onto this B by Valentine. Right. I don't really want it to pop out. So I'm going to glue that on. Oops, I'm so sorry. B. A bit of wiggle space. B by Valentine. There we go. Right, and with this bit, with the wings, not the leaves, the wings, I use, you can use, what do they call pads, sticky foam pads, you can use them. I lost this yesterday and I thought, oh, I better get it out today, and I haven't. So I might just use one of these. So, one of these coffee things. I've normally got a little tool to do this with that sort of pokes out. So, there we go. Let's take this. This is just some 3D glue. Some people use the pin flare. I inherited this from, I don't know, somebody. So I'm just going to do a little bit like that. Use this coffee stick. Put some in the middle and some on this part of the wings. There we go. Make sure it's not sticking out. So it goes like that. And pop it on. Let's just adjust it a little bit. So let's do that. So we've got a bit of a. There we go. Flare. Like that. That does dry clear. Make sure that let's wipe it. Don't want to get it everywhere. Press it down that side. Press it down that side so there's a little bit more contact. Now it's seeped out of there. I didn't do it this messy yesterday. Right. So I just took it off camera so I could just sort of like scrape around like that. Okay. Now I need to make sure I've got a little bit of a plop so it doesn't dry up. And put that back, that'll last for a long time. And there we go. Okay, so when I put it on the card blank, like so, let's have a look. You can see that it really does pop. I keep knocking this camera, I might have to move it. There we go. I've probably done something to the wings, but I can adjust them. The 3D glue does help. It will take overnight to dry properly, but it will dry really, really hard. Unlike the foam pads, there'll be no any sort of bounce or give in it. Let's see if I can make that straight. Gosh, really making a hash of it today. My first video. Great. Right. My daughter keeps telling me not to use my nails as tools. Nails are not tools, they're jewels. So don't tell her that I just did that. Right. She does my nails beautifully for me. She's a beauty therapist. So you'll probably see me with lots of different nail designs on. Make sure that lid's on. And there we go. So if I bring in the original one, move that out of the way. The only thing I did differently with the original one was that I did some highlights, and I used a Signo pen for that. And it's just a white pen, and I just did the like white eyes bit and some spots on, just really following what was on there from the stamp, the light highlight bits. Okay, so you can see both of those. Now this one's a little bit different. The legs are on top of the cotton because I actually fussy cut around the legs with the antenna underneath. This bee has got the legs underneath the cotton with the just the body part on the top. So you can mix and match, sorry. We've got Be My Valentine here, Be My Valentine here. So those are the two cards that we've done. Let's move that out of the way so you can see both of them. So that was the original one, and then that was the one that we did today. So they're quite different. Well, I can see the difference. This one's got like a lot brighter, and this one's a lot more muted. So yeah, that just shows how you can use the stamps. And you know, stamps with sentiments on them, you can use them. You don't have to use the stamp as its entirety. Right, well I hope you enjoyed that. So like and subscribe, that would be fantastic. Pop over to my Etsy shop or on Facebook, the jollypadboutique, and I will see you there. Have a lovely, lovely start to the new year, especially as you're heading back if you are heading back to work, as I am on Tuesday, and looking forward to it too. So there we go. Be my Valentine. Are you prepared for Valentine's Day? Well, you can be now. Okay, see you soon. Bye bye.